The release of the Future of Industrialization report by UNIDO this year should not be viewed merely as an economic update, but as a code for Western industrial civilization. The data reveals a reality that Western policymakers have long tried to ignore. China's share of global manufacturing has surged from 5% in 1980 to 31.6% in 2024, and is projected to grow to 45% of the global total by 2030. The implications are obvious. By 2030, the combined industrial output of the United States, Japan, and Germany will shrink to just 19%, less than half of China's capacity. This means that for every 2 industrial goods produced on Earth, 1 will be made in China. This is no longer just about losing market share, it's about the species extinction of Western industrial capability. Western leaders have long operated under the illusion that manufacturing could be reshored or moved to a friendly nation with enough subsidies. However, the short contract between Tesla's factory exposed the flaw in this thinking. Why did Tesla Shanghai Gigafactory achieve an annual output of 916,000 vehicles in 2024, while the Berlin factories struggled to reach 200,000 to 300,000? The answer lies in supply chain agglomeration. In the Yangtze River Delta, every critical component, batteries, motors, electronic controls, is available within a few hours' drive. In Shenzhen, a smartphone supply chain completes a circle in 24 hours. In contrast, Western supply chains are fragmented. Industry insiders calculate while labor in Southeast Asia may be cheaper, the lack of industrial clusters lead to longer procurement circles and expensive logistics, making the total unit cost 30 to 40% higher than in China. The strategic reality now is the West must stop fascinating about replicating this ecosystem overnight. The competition is no longer made in USA versus made in China. It is about whether Western brand can survive without leveraging Chinese efficiency. The crisis extends beyond current capacity to future potential. The common Western narrative regarding China's demographic collapse is a dangerous miscalculation. China is rapidly substituting biological labor with silicon and steel. Automation dominance in 2023 alone, China installed 276,300 industrial robots, accounting for 51% of the global total. While the Western debates labor shortage and immigration, China achieving unmanned manufacturing, logistical supremacy. Backed by the world's largest high-speed rail and port network, China's logistic costs account for only 10% of the product cost, significantly lower than the global average of 15%. This means that any Western attempt to decouple completely result in a structural cost disadvantage of at least 5% from day one, component by an unbridgeable gap in automation. The most profound gap lies in the energy foundation. In 2024, China's power generation surpassed 10 trillion kWh, representing 33% of the global total. The intelligence gap of the 153 lighthouse factories globally, representing the pinnacle of smart manufacturing, China is home to 62. With the integration of AI models like DeepSeek and advanced robotics like UNIDO, China is building a new quality productive force that Western legacy manufacturing cannot match. So now the strategic reality is that if Western corporations wish to meet net zero targets while remaining solvent, they may have no choice but to locate high energy, high compute manufacturing processes within China. The Western must face the brutal failure of the trade war initiated in 2018. 7 years later, the U.S. goods trade deficit reached 1.06 trillion in 2023, higher than before the tariffs began. These tariffs merely fuel domestic inflation, with 90% of the costs borne by Western consumers. More alarmingly, this pressure forced China to build a fortress of complete supply chain monopoly. Lithium battery 75% global share, photovoltaic module 80% global share, UHV transmission equipment 6% global share. As seen within the recent F-35 fighter jet production delays due to rare earth magnet restrictions, sanctioning China is now equivalent to industrial suicide. By 2030, when China holds a 45% share, any sanction imposed by by the West will effectively be sanctioned against its own supply chain. A new global industrial order is forming, with China at the core, radiating into Southeast Asia, Russia, and Central Asia. Countries attempting to forcibly decouple, like India, risk being locked out of the primary industrial ecosystem, welding them to the low-end manufacturing. For the West, this is a moment to realize the strategy must shift from containment to pragmatic cooperation. The West must subsidize and protect critical capacities, defense, pharma, regardless of the cost. For consumer goods, green hardware, and mature technologies, the West must swallow its pride and exploit China's overcapacity. China intends to use its projected 2 trillion trade surplus by 2030 to rewrite the global financial order. The West's only viable countermove is to utilize China's cheap robotic, cheap green power, and hyper-efficient logistics to subsidize Western standard of living and control inflation. It is a dangerous gamble, but in the face of a 45 absolute advantage, the Western is no longer in the position to kill the industrial base. It's smarter to ride it. Follow me, I'm Jason Shu, for more Made in China information.